a collab that's been waiting to happen. We got young Jordan in the building from the Nothing But Bull podcast. What's going on, fella?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, just getting it through this offseason, man. Waiting to see what these Bulls are going to do to try to actually improve this team for once. That's what we do.
Hoping they actually do something to improve the team.
Exactly, man. I mean, and that's what we'll launch into, man. Just talking about the team overall. Kind of like coming out of last season, the disappointment, of course, not making it out the plan, us getting Pat Bev at the in the buyout market. When you look at the Bulls and how they didn't necessarily live up to the expectations coming out of last season into this one, what do you think was the most disappointing thing about the season for you?
Um, Probably like we couldn't win 4 games in a row at all. Like
Yeah, that's
we get the
crazy.
3 and then lose every single time. So it's like a lack of consistency was like the biggest disappointment from how we started last season to not really making any changes going into this season and then just up and down, up and down. It's like a roller coaster the whole season.
Yeah, and it wasn't even just the fact that they couldn't win 4 in a row. It's like they would win 3 in a row, and then they lose at least 2 in a row, and then go like it was the almost the definition of an up and down season, man. It was really disappointing, just overall how the Bulls didn't perform, and really looking at where we were. I do think in kind of the press conferences and things that have come out, AK truly believed that Zoe was gonna be able to come back at some point in the season. It seems like that. I don't know why. I think everybody realized that very early on. Zoe was not coming back to save the Bulls at any point of last season, but he held out hope. Now, when you go into this offseason, them having the understanding that there's a very slim chance that Lonzo Ball may come back at all this season, do you expect them to go out and be a little bit more aggressive on the free agent market? Or when you look at like the Bulls cap situation and everything, are you kind of more expecting another punt and them kind of run it back for the most part again this season coming up?
Man, my gut feelings tell me they're going to try to run it back again. They're going to say, hey, we're in the playing game against the Heat, and they almost got to the Eastern Conference Finals, or they got to the Eastern Conference Finals, and we were right there. It could have been us. And you're going to be like, no, it couldn't have.
I hate that you said because that's exactly what they're gonna do. They're gonna re-sign Kobe, re-sign Vooch, move Kobe to the starting point guard, and be like, well, we felt like we were right there. We feel like this move of Kobe into the starting point guard position is gonna be what puts us up over the top. It's like, come on, bro. This is really what we're doing, AK. Such a disappointing season, man. Now you how long have you been a Bull? You've been a Bulls fan all your life, right?
Yeah, all my life.
So you just like me, you've dealt with the disappointment. 36 years I've been a fan of this team, and Lord knows it's been a tough 36 years. It's been real tough. And do you see like us realistically coming out of it anytime sooner? Do you think it's going to be those incremental, hopefully improvements where maybe we're first round exit for the next couple of years, and eventually comes down the road? AK, when he built Denver, it really was kind of an incremental change. Is that what you're expecting here, or do you hope that something's going to happen where the Bulls finally pull the trigger on something, and at some point we do a little bit of a jump start?
Man, I think it's going to be them incremental changes in first round exit and first round exit, then maybe it's a second round exit, and you just like I don't know. We have our draft pick in 2024, I think.
Yeah.
So maybe it's some luck there, and you can kind of improve the team.
Mhm.
But if they're still decide to wait for Lonzo, it's going to be slow improvements.
It's so frustrating, bro. That when that news came out that the Bulls, there's some Bulls execs that want to wait on Lonzo. I just like, how stupid can you be? Like, really, I hate to be blunt, but like, how stupid can you be? It's bro. That was one of the most frustrating pieces of news. When you look at this Bulls roster, you look at the young players we have. Dalen, who we didn't get to see a lot. Marco, who I don't have much faith in Marco. We got P. Will, we got Kobe, we got Io. Do you see any of those guys taking the necessary step next season to help improve the Bulls' overall chances? Or are you kind of out on some of those guys? Like Bulls fan, every other Bulls fan you ask, some still believe in the potential Patrick Williams. Some think, hey, the guy's a bust, which is crazy to label a 21-year-old player a bust, in my opinion. But how you feeling about like our young players and the players that are still coming up that have some left to progress on this team?
I think P. Will still has a ceiling that he has not reached yet. I think he can be a solid player Kobe, I think, is solid. You have to re-sign him because of how he played this season and the improvements he's shown over his career.
Mhm.
Dalen, we didn't get to see it all. So
Yeah.
I think he should have seen the floor some more. And hopefully this season he will get some more time. Marco, it's time for him to go. He's been in the G League for like 3 years, and we have not seen anything to where they're like, okay, let's give him some minutes other than
Yeah.
garbage time. I think that one's a wash.
Yeah, Marco is like, because I watched a lot of G League games, mainly for Dalen Terry, and I see that Marco offensively, I think he does have an NBA skill set offensively, but for him to be where he is now, and them not even when they needed size, not even to call him up to go to like a 6'5", 6'6" Terry Taylor before they went to our almost 7-foot young big man, it's like, yeah, they don't see it for this guy, bro. They don't see it. It's crazy.
They might as well get this little bit of money off the books.
Yeah, it's like because he's on a actual NBA roster. So it'd be different if he was just a G League player, cool, or on two-way. But like that's an actual spot. And considering how we are with the cat wise right now, we need every spot we can get to actually be somebody who can contribute to the team.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's like he's just they don't see it. They're like, nah, we'll bring up the two-way players before we bring up Marco.
yeah, and it's crazy. That's wild. When it comes to like, I asked you about the young players. You didn't mention Io DeSumo. What does that mean? Like, how do you view Io DeSumo now going into already a restricted free agent? The Bulls have to make a decision more long term than short when it comes to Io, which is crazy considering he's only been 2 years in the league. Like, where do you see Io DeSumo at right now?
It's a hard situation to figure out because if they want to re-sign Vooch and then re-sign Kobe and want to make a tweak to the roster, but we know Jerry's not going to let them go into the luxury tax.
Yeah,
Is like, do you re-sign Io? I think he could be like the odd man out, but I don't know. I think he has some talent. I mean,
mm-hmm.
he's a second round pick. It's not like he was picked fourth like Patrick Williams, and people are already calling Pat a bust at 21.
Yeah,
So he was picked in the second round, and he's shown flashes. Um, he kind of hit that rookie wall in the sophomore slump, and
yeah.
people are like, "Oh, he's trash. We got to get rid of Io." But I think he could still have a decent career. It just may not be with the Bulls because of the cap and Jerry steering clear of the luxury tax.
Yeah, and uh, when you look at like AK, I really do think AK doesn't want to send out any young players if he can avoid it. But Io may be a Jerry casualty, and that's just what you have to label it because like Jerry just refuses to pay the luxury tax, and then if Io does go somewhere and develops at least into like a solid defensive guard coming off the bench, or God forbid more than that. If I'm AK, I'll just look at AK. I mean, if I was AK, I'll just look at Jerry and be like, you see why we need to go into the luxury tax? Do you see that? Because it's tough, right? And when you're pushed up against the not going into the luxury tax, where so many teams do to like retain their young players and take a look at them, you start having to do casualties to the cap just because of that. Whereas we could realistically still sign Io and still use our full mid-level exception if we were just willing to go into the luxury tax at least a little bit in this year where we know we don't have Zoe, right? It'd be different if you had Zoe there, and then it kind of is what it is, but you're not willing to do the disabled player exception. The career-ending injury exception probably isn't coming. And so that really puts a limit on really what we can do. And I've been trying to prepare Bulls fans for the fact that more than likely we're running it back just because of the money, if nothing else. And that really does suck because if you look at AK and what he did in Denver, he made moves. And I think that coming into a team that they just avoid the luxury tax like the plague, it's really tied his hands in a way. It's not to say he still hasn't made some stupid moves, but it really ties his hands in a way that we kind of you could predict what's going to happen with this team.
Right. It's like people, they talk about some of AK's moves, and deservingly so, with all he gave up to get Vooch. But it's like he still can't do as much as maybe he wants to because Jerry's like, no, you're going over the budget, man. You got to stick to this budget. I'm not paying anything extra. And it's like, dude, you're a big market franchise. Do you want to improve this team or not? Because it seems like he's cool with mediocrity I think it was a quote he said a while ago where he was like, "It's better to finish second than finish first because people are going to keep coming back for more."
Exactly. Jerry really does not care, bro. It's about all about making money with Jerry and Michael, who reportedly Michael's like doing more of the day to day with the Bulls. He's the exact same person as Jerry, so it's not improved. A lot of people held out hope that like when Michael took over, maybe things will change. It's like, hey, ain't nothing changing around here as long as Reinsdorf is the owner. Ain't nothing changing around.
Man, I people hoping that they sell the team. It's not going to happen.
Number one in attendance in a year where we won 40 games, ain't selling no time soon, man. And I don't ever see the Bulls bottoming out enough as far as the bottom dollar for Jerry to be like, oh yeah, it's time to cut bait with this. So it's tough, man. It's tough being a trauma. The trauma that I'm sitting here going through, having this conversation. Billy Donovan is another hot topic when it comes to Bulls fans. There's some that hate Billy Donovan. There's some that blame him on everything. There's some that say, hey, Billy wasn't given a good roster. When you look at the job that Billy Donovan does as a head coach, and I know I already know the answer because I follow you on Twitter and we've talked about it, but just for the nature of the conversation, how do you feel as Billy Donovan as the Bulls head coach?
Billy Donovan should have been fired like during the season. Like one of those games where he's just like making no adjustments, not calling timeouts. They should have came down to the floor and said, "Go, get out." Like you can make arguments. Oh, he doesn't go out and rebound, or he doesn't shoot. Fine, that's cool.
Yeah.
He's supposed to set up the offensive identity of this team, and there's clearly no offensive identity other than get the ball to DeMar, let him ISO, or let Zach ISO, or he just throws out random bullshit. Because I think I was talking to John Hicks or the big media, and he said that this season that Billy was supposed to be implementing a new offense, which is random offense.
Yeah.
And you could tell it was random because it was nothing like set. They had no go-to plays that would help them get a basket. His out of timeout inbound plays were horrible. They could barely get the ball in.
Yeah.
You see Doc Rivers was fired, Bud was fired from the Bucks. Like all these coaches that have won championships or made it far into the playoffs were fired, and Billy Donovan, who has one playoff first round win and one playing game win here, got a extension under the table. And it's like, what are we doing here? And it goes down to Jerry not wanting to pay more than one coach because he's only ever done it once.
Yeah.
He's gone to the luxury tax once. I think he likes to do things one time so we can't say, oh, he's never done this. So he'd be like, no, I did this one time.
And so he can say, hey, no, I was willing to play for a championship team. I did it. But Derrick Rose couldn't come back. That's literally the only reason he did that. Because then immediately after that season, we sold off like everybody else for like second round picks. It was crazy. When it comes to Billy, I think my issue with Billy is, like you said, the adjustments, but also the fact that you don't utilize the players in the best. We have Zach LaVine, who's one of the best catch and shoot players in all of the NBA. And he got less than 10% of the plays called for him were catch and shoot. It makes no sense. You have Vooch several games cooking in the first half, touches the ball 3 times in the second half. That's the type of thing that I look at with coaching. And I'm just saying, like, your job as a coach is to put the players in the best situation. And part of the reason why the Bulls offense is so predictable is because you don't vary anything. You don't even go to a hot hand. Or we even look at Drummond, who was cooking. We took the lead against the Miami Heat in that second playing game because of Drummond and his energy. He plays 6 minutes the rest of the game. Crazy. It makes no logical sense in coaching that you would go away from something that's work. That's the thing. Like, yeah, the inbounds play calls, absolutely terrible. The adjustments, especially defensively, once every 15 games, he makes a good adjustment defensively. You're just like, oh, why don't you do that more often? But he does not ride the hot hand or use players in ways that make sense to their skill set. And then we wonder why our offense looks like crap most of the time. Like, it's wild.
Like that guy is the human fire extinguisher. Somebody is literally out there on fire making baskets after basket, and he yanks them out of the game. Like, what are you doing? Let that man
Yeah,
cook instead of
yeah,
you trying to come in and add some different ingredients in the recipe that was working. He'll make fire
yep.
extinguisher.
It's like adding raisins to the chicken salad, bro, the potato salad. Like that's what Jerry. I mean, that's what Billy Donovan does every single time. Let me just throw a couple of raisins in there. Why? Nobody wants raisins in their potato salad. God damn it! What are you doing here, brother? Um, that's funny. That's funny, man. When you look at the pending free agency of Vooch, what's the vibe you getting? You think Vooch is coming back? Do you want him back? Do you think they should let him walk away? What some people think? What's your feeling on Vooch?
I think he'll resign, and I think like you have to resign him. Because
Yeah,
who are you going to replace him with? This guy's a walking double double, and it's not like they were going to him much. Like
yeah,
he was doing his job, he can facilitate, but you don't really run your offense through him at all. He's just in the post, or you have him floating at the 3 point line when he can shoot, but he's not a shooter. Like
yeah.
he's a big
Great
that can
point.
shoot. He's not a shooting big. So he's better off being in the post and getting the ball to him to facilitate. When they trap DeMar, let Vooch break it, get it to him. He can make good decisions, but you need a coach that knows how to utilize big men, and we have a coach who does not like players over 6'6". Like he'll play 6'6" Dirk Jones at center instead of putting Andre Drummond in. And like, dude, what are you doing? Small ball cannot work all of the time, especially not against big players.
Yeah, and one of the benefits of small ball is also supposed to be that you can spread the floor and shoot more. Like we go small ball and we have a bunch of people who can't shoot threes that are small. It makes no sense his love of small ball considering this roster. I can understand if we had a roster for it. We don't, and so it's just like, come on, man. I don't want to shit too much on Billy Don. No, no, let me stop lying because he deserves it. But it just it's so frustrating, man. It just really is frustrating. It is, but Vooch isn't a problem, and I know some Bulls fans have made Vooch the kind of the center point of the issue, and I think it's the way he's utilized more than him as a player. You always knew what he was defensively. You're not going to find very many third options that can still go out and get you 10 and 11. I mean, 18 and 11. You're not going to find very many third options who can still do that. The fact that Vooch isn't utilized correctly, is a third option on offense, and still produces the way that he produces is huge to me. Like, yeah, he has his defensive limitations, but that's why you construct a roster that kind of balance things out. And when you have a 6'4" point guard starting at power forward next to him, what do you expect?
Right? It's,
Like,
it's like a third option, like the fans always shit on. Like you look
yeah,
at Bosch with the Heat, you're like, oh, he was way better in Toronto. Well, he was the first option. He was getting the offense ran through him. He's taking a back
yeah,
seat to Wade and LeBron. Or like when Kevin Love was in Cleveland. Oh, Kevin Love, what happened to him? Well, he's playing behind Kyrie and LeBron. He's taking that
yeah.
role as a third option. And they do their job and they won championships doing that. But since we're not like winning championships right now, everybody's like, "Oh, Vooch is trash. We lost that trade. You got to get rid of him. Trade him for DeAndre Ayton or like, dude, come on." Like,
DeAndre Ayton is literally a younger, worse passing version of Vooch.
yes,
Like, it's crazy.
I'm like, you want to trade somebody that's for someone younger but can't do what Vooch does. And then
Yeah.
you watch these plays of him where he doesn't even play with effort like most of the time. Like they see him in the playoffs, he just watched somebody go up for the rebound and he's kind of standing out of bounds, just looking like, what do you want me to do?
Hey, what do you want me to do? I have no idea. Block a shot. What do you mean? When last question about the roster, I'm going to ask you something personal before we go. DeMar. There's a lot of conversation around DeMar, what he means to this Bulls team, trading him, not trading him. Where do you sit on the DeMar DeRozan conversation?
DeMar has been great for us. Like he carried us last season with that historic run. He's bailed
Mhm.
us out a lot this season, but he's 33. He's going to be on the last year of his contract. If you can get something to help the future of this team for trading DeMar, you have to do it. Like I've heard them talking about trading with Portland for the third pick and Anthony Simmons, because I think the Blazers are looking for talent to put around Dame, and they said that they want an elite small forward.
Yeah.
DeMar's still an elite small forward. Like,
I think they want a two-way. But I'd say this: if you can get the third overall pick for DeMar in pieces, you do that every single time.
yeah, like because if you extend him, you're looking at what, 140 million contract
Yeah,
for
that's the most
somebody
he
that's
can
going to
make.
be 34 and they're just getting older. I mean,
Yeah,
love DeMar, but you got to do what's better for the future of the team.
and that's it brings together like how much of a struggle this franchise has been in, because like Bulls fans, rightfully so, that they want to hold on to DeMar so much because he has bailed us out and he did mean so much to us. But it's like you also have to think about the future. Like there's no way realistically, unless AK pulls a rabbit out of a hat, that we can get to contending in the timeline that we have DeMar DeRozan. It's unrealistic. And so because of that, you have to put your franchise in the best situation. Now, I'm not saying just trade DeMar just to trade him and get him off the roster, but if you can get something that improves this team either in the short or the long-term future, you have to do it.
Yep, definitely agree.
But before we go, I want to ask you something, man. What is your favorite Chicago Bulls memory?
Favorite Chicago Bulls memory?
Yep. Whether it's a game, going to a game live, seeing a highlight on TV, watching the game. What's your favorite memory as a Bulls fan?
My favorite memory is always going to be the flu game. Like,
ooh, yeah.
I remember being home and in the basement area. It's on TV. They're like, we don't know about Jordan's physical condition. He's got flu-like symptoms. We don't know if he's going to play. And I'm sitting there like, oh man, we about to lose this game. Only for him to like drop 38 and then be carried off by Scottie Pippen. It's like that moment will always live forever, especially number one in my mind for Bulls moments. And then like my first pair of Jordans was the flu game 12. So
really,
yeah, so I was
okay. That'll do it.
Definitely the flu game.
Hey, that's a special memory I have too, because we were living in Germany at the time, and my dad let me stay up to watch that game. I think it was like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and just watching that game and watching the performance that Jordan put on, and being like looking like he was on his deathbed almost, it was such a special time. I had to be like 7 years old when that happened too, but I remember that memory like it's nothing. Like it's so clear in my mind that it was like it happened yesterday. But yeah, that's a great one. That's a great memory to have as a Bulls fan. A lot of these young Bulls fans don't know nothing about that, bro. They only know about the replay. So before we go, man, go ahead and tell them where they can follow you. Tell them about Nothin But Bull podcast as well, so they can go check you out, man.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Young Jordan. Instagram, same Young Jordan. On the Bulls official Discord as a moderator, and it's Young Jordan on there as well. So always come there. We talk about the Bulls. Right now, we're just like talking about the playoffs since the Bulls are out. But anytime you want to talk basketball or about the Bulls or what might happen and what moves we could do, come to the Bulls Discord. Holler at us. You can find my podcast, Nothin But Bull. It's with me and Melissa, who everybody knows on Bulls Twitter, one of the Bulls queens. My boy Justin. We on a little bit of hiatus because of some scheduling stuff, but probably be back after next week. But you can definitely follow the podcast account on Twitter at Bull Nothing and Nothin, and you'll get the update of when the next episode is dropping.
Yeah, I mean, this is the time to take off. It's not like we got any playoffs or draft picks to talk about. So, it is what it is. Take some time off. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you for Jordan for joining, man. You guys can follow the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, text messages, voicemail, 773-270-2799. For Young Jordan, I'm Haize, man. We out here.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.